Oh, I forgot to mention something, which was this is we're on year 8 of this. It's a lot. And I totaled it up. We're like at I think I have spent a year of Thursdays doing these. So, 1/58th of my life. And the other funny thing is that I looked at we live stream all these, Hello World, and the last event that we had was the Holiday Poems event, where it was mostly an open mic, but we just had holiday poems and it was pretty loose. And that video had 205 views. So that's pretty amazing. Okay. Tonight's...
Did you watch it, Mark?
Huh?
How many times did you watch it?
I watched it 100 times. Tonight's featured reader is Efrain Diaz Horna. Efrain was born in Talara, Peru. I'm going to butcher a lot of names in here, just letting you know. Just be ready for that. He was awarded a full scholarship to study at Mount Angel College in Oregon, where he received a bachelor's degree in sociology and then returned to Peru, where he worked in the land reform program. 2.5 years later, Efrain returned to the United States and completed 2 graduate degrees at the University of Wisconsin. For 25 years, Efrain was employed in the state of Oregon in Multnomah County. Many of those years were spent as an administrator for the Department of Aging and Disability Services. Upon his leaving, one of his employees described Efrain as a legend in our midst, philosopher, teacher, artist, poet, director, a true Renaissance man. His poetry has been published in Expresso, the Oregonian, the Hispanic News, the National Catholic Reporter, and several newsletters. He was the author of the following poetry books: The Many Faces of Love, A.R. Agua de Cenizas, Cuatro Poemas, The Anvil of God, The Life of Oceans. Oh man, Efrain. He can tell you about the one in 2018, Relative Poetry. He can tell you about the one in 2016, 19, and the one in 2000. Yeah, both of them in 2019. A translation of Kim Stafford's poem. Efrain has been a member of the Oregon Council for the Humanities, the Regional Arts and Cultural Council, the Oregon United Nations Association, the Silverton Poetry Association, the board member of the Oregon Poetry Association, the Instituto de Cultura Oregoniana, has chaired the Oregon Hispanic Commission, etc. Here is Efrain Diaz Horna.
I have been here for over 50 years, and I still have to deal with my accent. So while I'm reading, I have made copies of these. Maybe you can. This is for you. You can send it that way. that way, if I'm murdering any words, you'll forgive me.
Efrain, you have an accent.
Huh? And I'm going to read a few poems in that little booklet. And I'm going to read the poems, mostly the ones that don't have any title. You know, and I'm glad you're here. I'm honored that you are willing to listen to my ponderings, my musings, but I like the word in Spanish, cavilaciones. For the last couple of years, I've been writing every day. Sometimes I just write 2 lines, and now I'm in the process of reviewing all those things and trying to make some sense out of all the things that I've written. And so I'm going to share those poems with you. And one of the things I'm going to do is, most of the poems I'm going to read them in English, And I don't know sometimes whether I'm writing them in English or in Spanish. I'm very confused. And sometimes probably my syntax, I don't know whether it agrees with the Spanish or English, but I just keep on doing, writing, I mean. So in a couple of poems, I will read them in both in English and Spanish, so that you will get a sense for the sound and all of that. The first one goes like this. I search for the strand, the thread of our human tapestry. I thirst for the glue that binds us and shelters us. I miss the warm embrace of our friends. It is because our lives in these muddled times of sad silences appear to dissolve into the landscape of impoverished afternoons without dialogues, miracles, or sorceries. I open my eyes, I scrutinize the fluttering of birds in my garden, drawing smiles and secrets. I open my heart, and I feel the aroma of friendship flowing gently amidst the verdant foliage, imbuing my spirit with hope. The next one goes like this. One by one, from the ashes, infused with vigor, the bricklayers reignite our daily dreams, rebuilding the reservoirs for our human endeavors. At a distance, a child smiles, despite our tragedies, restarting the cycle of life. We have been saved. The next one, two antagonistic men undulating their beloved flags, traverse their chosen path, vehemently claiming to be the holders of the truth. Under the bewildered sky, they march with unyielding conviction, exuding certainty. The heavens struggling to understand their stance. At a glance, they were both right, for the burdens of their culture had taught them what to think, but not to engage in dialogue. Both were right, and their stubborn certitude gave rise to our tragedies. Oof, musings. The next one. The earth, dampened with illusions, awaited the farmer's caresses with his designs to plow bright futures with his life-giving hands, to base them with the sun. Meanwhile, the farmer, with his convex dreams, scanned the horizon, searching for the maiden's concave eyes, as they walk spinning omens and smiles over the valleys of love. The earth, the farmer, and the maidens. Next one is a very short one. How do you name things? The boy asked his father. His father caressed his son's face. He urged him to sit next to him and started writing a poem. Now, this next poem was a remembrance. I remember in one class years ago, a few years ago, I think it was a course in sociology, and the professor said something like, the value of a sociologist is the fact that they can interpret the obvious. So that's what, I don't know, I wrote this thing and I thought it was addressing that particular idea. And it goes like this: the man, the fish, the air, the water, the roads, the rivers. The men walking were chatting. The fish swimming were babbling. One day someone mentioned the air. The man, perplexed, became silent. Then someone mentioned the water. The fish, mystified, stopped in silence. The men wondered, what is air? The fish questioned, what is water? Later, a wise man explained to them the obvious. You know, it's funny, also in another class, I don't know whether he was pulling our legs or what, but he said that it took the Greeks 300 years to discover air. They knew about wind, but not air, because it was always there. And they had experienced that somehow. Okay, the next one goes like this. How could we learn to live like the birds with just what they have? We will have to learn to fly, to caress the sky with our dreams. How could we learn from the farmer to love the earth that shelters and feeds us? We will have to study the wisdom of the Pachamama with love and patience. How could we learn from our neighbor who wanders through this world without shoes? We would have to tread over the footprints left by his steps in his path. How could we learn from the smacking that your peers give us despite being good? We would have to mine the meaning of forgiveness from the depths of our being. How could we learn to accept the truth that life is a classroom of endless learning? We would have to learn to flow with courage through the waterways of life. That is our task. And this is one I'm going to read in Spanish. ¿Cómo aprender a vivir como los pájaros, tan solo con lo que tienen? Habrá que aprender a volar, a besar el cielo con nuestros sueños. ¿Cómo aprender del abrigo a amar la tierra que nos cobija y alimenta? Habrá que estudiar con cariño y paciencia la validez de la Pachamama. ¿Cómo aprender del prójimo que deambula sin zapatos por este mundo? Habrá que pisar las huellas que dejan sus pasos en su caminar. ¿Cómo aprender del cachetazo que te dan tus semejantes a pesar de ser bueno? Habrá que escarbar el sentido del perdón desde lo más profundo de nuestro ser. ¿Cómo aprender a aceptar que la vida es un aula continua de aprendizaje? Habrá que aprender a fluir con arrojo por los cauces de la vida. Esa es nuestra tarea. Anyway, back to English. His jet black eyes were fixed with admiration on the youthful girls that sweetly swayed in the daily pentagrams of joy. He was filled with joy and started to write, outlining tender fables, molding them with love and care, and a magical dream book was born. A child sitting amid the rubble of what once was his home contemplated the ravages of hatred. What is love for in times of war? The boy asked the priest of his parish. The bombs told tempos of death, breaking the town's quietness, and the priest went silent. Close by, a farmer crossed their path, singing miracles. We need to search the fire in the seeds of love. I hear the urban roar, a caged mountain lion, cars, radios, sirens, murmurs. I hear the tumult of agglutinated tongues crowding our spaces. I despair. I feel the centripetal force of nature. I feel the urge, perhaps it's a mandate, to fly back in time to a sacred place. What place? A place of rolling verdant hills that beckon me with pastoral magic, dubbed in yellow, green, and ochre gestures. A place of welcoming cobblestone streets infused with the scent of jasmine and intriguing virginal smiles. And this next poem also, I'm going to read it both in Spanish and English. And it goes like this. He wanted to understand his life by talking, reading books, practicing yoga, eating quinoa, loving and writing. This is how he envisioned his destiny. He awakened with the crickets at night to contemplate the stars. Then he would read his books, creating worlds full of adventures without musical scores, but pregnant with insightful colors. He fulfilled his daily schedule, exercising yoga in 12 Benedictine steps with prophetic bell towers, accompanied with the cadences of Gregorian chants that subtly amalgamated without reproach his body and spirit. He sat at the table to test the Indian quinoa with portions of well-cooked vegetables, savoring a crunchy guinea pig to nourish his soul with myth, stories, soaked with rustic and admirable blockbusters. This is how he became a man, reading, loving, practicing yoga, writing, and eating quinoa. In Spanish sounds like this. Querida muerte. No, quería comprender su vida hablando, leyendo libros, practicando yoga, comiendo quinoa, amando y escribiendo. Así vislumbraba su destino. Se levantaba con los brillos de noche para contemplar las estrellas. Después leía sus libros y construía mundos plenos de aventuras sin fondos musicales, mas preñado de perspicaces colores. Cumplía con su cotidiano horario, ejercitando yoga en 12 pasos benedictinos con campanarios proféticos, acompañado con las carencias de cantos gregorianos que amalgamaban sutilmente, sin reproches, su cuerpo y espíritu. Se sentaba a la mesa a degustar la andina quinoa con porciones de vegetales bien cocidos, saboreando su crujiente cuy para nutrirse de mitos, de historias empapadas de serranas y admirables epopeyas. Así es como se hizo hombre, leyendo, amando, practicando yoga, escribiendo y comiendo quinoa. Now, this one, I'm going to read 2 more poems, and I think that's enough, yeah? Because I can keep on reading, but anyway. And this is, when was it, last year? For some reason I remember this story my father told me one, and it was related to love. And it's a very interesting story. He says, I remember a story my father told me once. Once upon a time, there was a vile, diabolical son who mistreated his mother mercilessly. The mother lived her hell praying, asking the Lord to bless her with the miracle of transmuting her son, but she only found the silence of the candles. One day, the son, in rage with vinegar and hatred, beheaded his mother without pity. He picked up his mother's head, wanting to throw it into the abyss of oblivion. After taking a few steps, the infamous son stumbled, falling and letting the head roll down the path that led to the ravine. His mother's head stopped rolling. Raising her eyes with maternal fondness, she said, "Have you hurt yourself, my son?" The horizon became silent. The hissing of the clouds reverberated in our hearts, and the vile son tardily grasps his mother's love. And the last one that I will read here, let me see, and this is, for some reason I like to read it. I wrote it for my son Kevin, my oldest son, when he turned 13. And I'll read it first in Spanish and then at the end I'll read it in English. No seas solo un hombre instruido. No seas solo un hombre instruido, hijo mío. No seas como el peñón de Gibraltar, imponente maravilla mediterránea, silente y estático, pero sé un eterno aprendiz. Sé como el río Amazonas, vigoroso caudal de vida, dadivoso y fluido. No seas un monumento, pero sé como el cóndor andino y vuela siempre alto con tus sueños, susurros de la esperanza, tu sonrisa, señal de alegría, y tus lágrimas, gotitas de dolor. Mi querido hijo, no seas solo un hombre instruido, evitas estancarte e insiste en fluir y aprender. Sé sencillamente un hombre. Now the English version. Be not a learned man. Be not a learned man, my son. Be not the rock of Gibraltar, imposing Mediterranean wonder, silent and static, but be a learning man. Be as the Amazon River, torrent of movement and life, generous and fluid. Be not a monument, but be as the Indian condor and fly forever high with your dreams, whispers of hope, your smile, sign of joy, and your tears, droplets of sorrow. My beloved son, be not a learned man, be not static, but flow and learn. Be a learning man. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Efrain. Wasn't that terrific? So in the back we have crackers and cheese, cookies, and chocolate. There's two lists back there. One list is for the mailing list. If you want to be on the mailing list, you sign up on that one. And one is for the open mic. If you want to read the open mic, you sign up on that one. And after all the crackers are eaten and stuff, we'll do the open mic.